What's up guys, Cwesolo here, and today we're back for another video on how to code in C#. Last time around, we covered for loops and how for loops work and basically what they do. If you want to go watch that video, you can go check the card in the corner above, but if you did miss last video, I guess I'll just give a brief explanation of what a for loop is. If you want a more detailed explanation, you can go check the last video. So for loops essentially is a loop that has four main components. You have an integer variable, you have a condition, and then you have an increment. So it'll loop until this condition is met, and then once it's met, it'll break out. So, or I guess more accurately, you could say that it's looping because this is the condition. So it's going to loop while this condition is true. So while I is less than 10, it's going to loop. So while this condition is actually being met, it's going to loop and then it's going to break out. So I guess that is a more accurate thing, but either way, it's going to loop until I is essentially basically meets the 10. So that's how for loops work. While loops are a little different. While loops don't need an integer value, an increment, or anything like that. It just needs a condition, and that's it. So let's make a while loop real quick. We're gonna make essentially the same thing as this for loop. So we're gonna just simply make an integer. We're gonna name it x, right? We're gonna set it equal to 0. All right, and we're gonna go while x is less than 10. So just like that. So it's gonna loop while x is less than 10. And then we're gonna just x plus plus. So this is the same thing. It has all the three main components that this for loop has. It has a variable, it has a condition, and it has a increment here. This is basically the same thing as this. It's essentially pointless to do this because you have for loops that automatically have this in one just line. But just know that you can construct the same thing. Any of the loops you can construct the same thing as the other ones. So I can, well, except for a for loop. A for loop, you cannot construct a while loop using a for loop. So for loops only work with numbers. Where while loops, you can use booleans, you could use chars, you can use strings. So like, for example, you want to check while a string, if for a certain string value to be equal, right? So while this string is not equal to this, like it's going to go until it is equal, right? So let's actually do something similar to like that. Let's actually make a random number generator, and we are going to loop until we get a number that we're looking for. Now, the cool thing about while loops is that they actually don't have a specific amount of cycles they're going to make. It'll go on and on and on and on and on and on until the condition, until whatever the condition is no longer able to be met. So, for example, if you're searching for a specific number, like let's say you have random numbers coming in and you're searching for 10, right? It's going to loop until you get 10. Once you get 10, then it's going to break out of the loop because that was the number that you were searching for, and your condition for the loop was while the number was not equal to 10. So that's pretty cool. It has no fixed amount of times it's going to loop through, like a for loop where it has a fixed amount of times. It knows exactly how many times it needs to loop through until that condition is no longer able to be met. So let's make a random number generator. So let's do that. We're going to type in random, and we're going to name it RNG. We're going to set it equal to new random with the parentheses and a semicolon at the end of the line. So I'm going to just briefly kind of explain what this is doing. I know that we haven't covered this stuff yet, but we'll be covering it later on. But just know that this is referencing the random class, and it's giving it a variable name, RNG, random number generator, and it's setting it equal to a new random. So it's just making a new random from the random class. Okay, that's the best way I can explain it for right now. So yeah, we're going to use that random number generator to generate a random number. We're going to need an int, so we're going to call it int num, and we're going to set it equal to 0, like so, for now. And then we're going to go while num is not equal to 10. So now it's going to loop while num is not equal to 10. And if you look at this here, it's quite literally just gonna loop however many times until you get num that is equal to 10. So now I'm gonna set num equal to rng.next, and we're gonna give it a minimum of a value of 0 and a maximum value of 100. And it is gonna loop through however many times it takes to get 10. And we're just gonna go ahead and do console.writeLine. We want to see what these numbers are, so let's go ahead and do that. And there we go. So we're gonna just console.writeLine, and as soon as we get 10, it's gonna be done. One thing that is to note about a while loop and the difference, there is quite a difference between do whiles and whiles. I'm gonna just explain that real quick here. Whiles do a pre-check, where do whiles is a post-check. So once we cover do whiles, I'll explain that a little bit more in detail, but just know that this is pre-checking this here. So it's pre-checking that num is not equal to 10. If I set num equal to 10 right now, it's going to realize, oh, num is equal to 10, and we're just going to skip this. I'll even show that right now. It's going to just pop nothing into the console. See, there's nothing here. There was nothing to loop through because that condition already was met. So just know that this is pre-checking the condition, and while this condition is true, it's going to go through. So while num is not equal to 10, it's going to loop through however many times it takes until it becomes equal to 10. So let's go ahead and run it. So it ran a lot of times before it finally got to 10. And you can see that we got random numbers every time. I don't know how many times it's looped through, and I'm sure we could keep track of how many times it did loop through. So let's actually do that. Let's go ahead and make another number here, and we're going to name this number looping, or loop val, right? So loop value. And we're going to set that equal to 0, just like we did with the other one. And every time it loops, we're going to go ahead and do loop val plus plus. That way, we can figure out exactly how many times this is going to loop through, and we might get some useful information out of this, actually. So let's go ahead and do console.writeLine, and we are going to just print out loop val. So we're going to put looped plus loop val plus times. So there we go. So now what this is going to do, a little bit of string concatenation here. It's gonna basically say it looped the number of times it looped times. So let's go ahead and give this a go. Let's quickly save and F5, and now it looped 13 times to only get to 10. Look at that. So it got random numbers and it only took 13 times to go through. Now this can change a lot, right? If I were to add an even bigger number here, like let's say 10,000, and we were to go from like negative 10,000. So we're going negative 10,000 to 10,000. That is a big range, right? I accidentally put an equal sign there, my bad. So we have a big range here, right? This is a large range. It might take a while for us to get the number 10 that we want here. So let's go ahead and give it another go. And as you can see, I think I might have broke something. One moment. There we go. So now it's going until it's going to get 10. Now this may loop a lot. Oh, and it looped. So we got, it took a sec, but we got 31,469 loops. So it looped that many times. That's a lot of times it looped. So that's the cool thing about while loops, is that it'll loop as many times as it takes to get to whatever you're looking for. And that's the main difference between a for loop and a while loop. And you could even see it in the way that they're coded, with how for loops are coded like this, where you have, for example, a certain amount of values like that. And this is going to loop, as many times. It's going to only loop 10,000 times until it gets to 10,000. Where this is going to loop as many times as it takes to get to finally no longer meet the condition that needs to be met. So that's the main difference between the two, where this has a fixed amount of times it's going to loop. This has no fixed time. It's going to loop until it finally is no longer able to meet this condition. And the condition being here that num is not equal to 10. Very cool. You can make a for loop forever. It's possible. It's called an infinite loop. I didn't really mention it in my for loop video, but you can make for loops loop forever. It's called an infinite loop, but most likely if you're constructing an infinite loop, you're doing it wrong. You always want your condition able to not be met any longer. So while this condition is being met, like for the for loop here, this condition is not being met until it finally hits 1,000. Once I is, you know, finally equal to 1,000 or 10,000, it's gonna break out of the for loop. Or as I mentioned there, I like to mention that it's gonna loop until it gets to this value. So until this condition here, you can kind of look at it as until I is equal to that number. So it's rather interesting to look at the differences between these two forms of loops, and they're different use cases for both of them. Where you want to use a for loop for an array, right? You might be searching for a specific value in an array, and you want to, you know, you could use the length of the array as this number here. Where a while loop, you might be actually using that to, you know, to do something completely else, or maybe even check that user input is valid. Or even better yet, trying to get a specific number. In this case, we're trying to look for the number 10, and as soon as we got 10, finally, we got out of there. So really cool, and it's going to loop as many times as it takes to get to what you're looking for. So it's pretty awesome. While loops are very useful, and that's about all I have to say about them. I mean, I think we covered everything here. Again, it has the two main components that I mentioned in any loop, that has a condition and a looping body. Here's the looping body, and here is the condition. So while this condition is being met, it's going to loop. Once this condition can no longer be met, it's going to get out of the loop. So pretty dang cool, and it can go on and on and on for however long it takes to actually finally get through this. So this time it was a bit shorter, about 16,000 times, or actually 17,000 times. So pretty cool, and you could even look at all the different values we're getting here. And we also did a little bit of number generation in this episode too. It's pretty cool. Yeah. So just know also on a note, the random number generator here, it's actually pseudo random. It's not completely random. So just know that computers can't be complete. There's no such thing as complete randomness when it comes to computers. So, and it's just using some mathematical function to produce this number here. So it's pseudo random, but it's random enough to do exactly what we're trying to do here. So it's pretty cool. If you guys like this episode or video, leave a like, comment if you have any questions or anything like that. Any things you'd like to say on this episode. I actually have a challenge for you guys. Construct a while loop using some sort of Boolean. So make some kind of system to satisfy whether or not like the Boolean needs to be false or true, and use a while loop to do that. So that's my challenge for you guys. Check user input. Check to see if user input is valid. So make like a simple calculator and put it within the while loop, and then check for, so as soon as the user input is not valid, use a Boolean to determine whether or not it is valid. All right? That's my challenge for you for next time. So yeah, if you guys like the content on the channel, do subscribe. I'm also working on some more game development videos. I think the next video I'm posting is probably what kind of monitor do you need for game development. If you are interested in that video and you want to see it, subscribe, and so that way you won't miss out on any of my future content, including more episodes of How to Code. And yeah, I guess I will see you. Oh yeah, also go check out my game on Steam. It is on there. It's not released yet, obviously, but it has a Steam page, and go wishlist it so that way you'll be notified as soon as it is released. Also, I'll have a link in the description for that. And yeah, I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.